Hey, welcome to 100 Mile Drive, a channel where I teach you to buy the right car. And guys, today I have a 2025 Toyota Camry Hybrid SE to answer two biggest questions. And question number one, in 2024, why would you buy a Toyota Camry Hybrid over, let's say, Toyota RAV4 Hybrid or even Honda CR-V Hybrid? Both of those cars I reviewed on my channel. I'm gonna leave a link in the description below. Basically, why would you get a sedan over a crossover? And question number two, what does this 2025 Camry Hybrid feels like to drive? Guys, I have a personal relationship with Toyota Camrys. I drove them for a total of 9 years. I had 3 Camrys back to back. My first 2004 Camry that I paid $20,000 for got me through the school was a 4-cylinder Camry. It had a terrible loose steering and it didn't have ABS system, so the car was fishtailing all over the place. Then I traded that car in 2007 for Camry XLE V6 model. I paid total around $28,000. It was exciting because I had 268 horsepower, but it could not put the power down. Again, we had a bad loose steering. It had a massive torque steer where the steering was going all over the place. So when the tires wore out a little bit, that car just could not put power down. And in 2011, I traded it for a Camry Hybrid. The first Camry Hybrid that came out had a smaller trunk compared to this car. It was heavier, but it had a much nicer steering. But it was much slower as well, 9.2 seconds, 0 to 60. And here we are. So I'm really excited to tell you about this 2025 Camry Hybrid, like how much different this modern Toyota compared to all those Godzillas. All right, stay tuned. And guys, if this is the first time you watch a 100 Mile Drive, well, this is the channel where I say before you buy a Toyota Camry or any other car, do not just go to the dealership and settle for a 5-minute test drive. Instead, rent a similar car and drive it for at least 100 miles in city streets, highway, and twisty roads to be able to answer the biggest question I'm answering on this channel: how does it feel to drive? And first, a quick walk around this 2025 Camry Hybrid SE just to quickly discuss its exterior styling. Now, for 2025 refresh, they added this metal piece, which I'm honestly not excited about. You see it through headlamps and taillights as well. And yes, I know Toyota doesn't like to make, a lot of changes to their cars. They kind of more conservative, but I'm not sure I like that addition. Now, I definitely like the SE trim over LE or XLE, so I would get SE or XSE for this black wheels, thinner profile tires, and of course the side skirts and all these black accents. I think it looks much nicer. Now, if you're curious, these tires are 235 45 R18. You get 65 R16 on the LE model if you want softer ride. But I think this is fairly nice, decent. These are Bridgestone Turanza tires. I'll discuss them as I drive this car. Side profile looks pretty similar to the previous generation. And here, taillights, right? Now, every time I see this car in the city, I don't understand this taillights. I think in the red and darker colors, it looks somewhat okay, but like white, lighter colors, I don't like this. I don't like this design element. It's subjective what I'm saying, but I think the previous generation looked nicer. Now, let's look at the trunk. I had to figure out where the button for the trunk. Now, what people like Camrys for is their trunk space. And considering this is a hybrid, it has a pretty decent sized trunk. And you get your spare, right? It's underneath this. It's a donut spare, which is nice, right? You don't get stuck with, run flats or basically no spare like some automakers do. And now let's do a quick door sound check. And this is where I don't like Camrys for this, it's like feels like a thinner metal because there's like a little rattling at the end, like drrr. Like, what is this, man? This is where like a Volkswagen will sound much nicer. Feels like light, feels like like a Coke can, But Camrys were known for this, and they're, people buy them not for this. People buy them for reliability, comfort, and other stuff. All right, let's get on the inside. Now, coming on the inside, I usually like to discuss the interior quality, and let's talk about this 2025 Camry Hybrid SE trim. Now, these doors, right? The upper trim is kind of soft. These are not high-end materials, but at least they're fairly well molded. I don't find any creaks or rattles in this interior and these doors as well. Some fabric. This is a hard plastic. Some soft touch, hard plastic, but at least it's nicely molded and it kind of expected for Toyota. Now, the better materials are here. This is your soft touch and this feels nicer. Of course, you don't see any stitching or anything premium, but at least it feels overall decent. Nice leather wrapped steering wheel. Now, the part I don't understand, a little confused, is this area here, right? There's a lot more going on compared to, let's say, Honda, right? CR-V or Honda Accord, where they went with a classy dashboard and sticking out screen. So this is completely opposite. This is your typical 8-inch screen, and you can get 12.3 if you go with XSE model, or your 6-speaker audio versus a 9-speaker JBL in the XSE model. Now, the way it feels, this cabin is it's a little bit cluttered. Now, I have my parents-in-law who are visiting from another country, and they have a 2015 Camry, and they say this cabin doesn't feel as spacious as theirs. Yes, it feels more modern, but it feels like there's too much furniture in the room, and I definitely feel that way as well. Now, even looking in the rear, like, these rear seats feel pretty nice, but this sloping roof feels like there's a little less space somehow, that you get that impression. As far as seats, they feel pretty comfortable. There's your kind of leatherette and a fabric material here, this fabric. Overall, they're not like harsh or not soft. They're kind of in the middle. I'll discuss on the highway driving how they would feel for long journeys. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with the cabin in terms of the quality materials. Like I said, nothing rattles, and you have your buttons here, your toggle switches, at least, not like Lexus putting everything on the screen. So overall, I'm pretty pleased, not overly impressed, but I think it's fine for 2025. All right, let's go ahead and drive it. And first, I'm gonna drive Toyota Camry Hybrid SE in the city. So I'm gonna throw it in drive. Let's throw it in sport mode just to kind of get a quick glimpse of what it's like to accelerate in this car. All right, and let's go. Now, officially, basically this car is rated 0 to 60 in around 7 seconds. This is a front wheel drive model, SE trim, like I said, so it has a sport tuned suspension that we're gonna discuss, and it has a 225 combined horsepower for front wheel drive, or if you get all-wheel drive model, it's 232 horsepower. How does it actually feel accelerating in this Camry in real world scenario, right? Let me hit the stop and I'll tell you exactly. And then hitting the stop right here. And let's go. Off we go. And you know what? It's not bad. Now, yesterday when I actually picked up this car, I spent some time driving it, accelerating, testing, and it kind of got me thinking, you know what? They don't need any more V6 Camry. They don't need any more gas engine Camry, like a base 4-cylinder, because this replaces both of them. It has pretty adequate, okay? It's not like satisfying, it's just adequate, but it's pretty decent for what it is. I mean, 7 seconds for a hybrid, that's not bad, right? For a car that has 47 mpg. One more acceleration. Yeah, it's not bad at all. I'll discuss mid-range power on the highway, but overall this car moves, and even with 4 passengers, like a driver and 3 passengers in the car, 4 people, it moves pretty well, so it's pretty torquey as well. Of course, you get this whiny eCVT transmission that it has, but at least this car moves compared to my 2011 Camry Hybrid that was really slow and loud, and it did not feel good at all. Now, this is definitely on a much better level. Now, next I want to talk about brakes. Brakes feel pretty decent as well. The pedal feels a little heavy. There's probably regenerative braking happening as well, but it's pretty solid. I don't get that kind of, overly excessive motion forward when I'm braking. So it brakes pretty nicely, pretty, confident, I would say. So I like that as well. Usually Camrys, I remember, had like kind of loose and not satisfying, like not strong braking. Now this feels pretty good. Now the braking right here, and it stops. Of course, if you brake a little bit under more stress, then the car will, slip. But that feels at least nice, like it doesn't, the steering doesn't go all over the place and all that. Now, next, let's talk about steering in this car. And this is where I like what Toyota is doing in modern cars. Now, I experienced that in the RAV4, but in the RAV4 hybrid, steering is lighter than this. This is also light, but it's nicely weighted light, Okay, it's responsive. And by the way, when you change the mode to sport, like I am right now, normal or eco, it does adjust a little bit. Like in eco mode, it's a little bit lighter. In sport mode, it tightens up a little bit. And on canyon road driving, it does feel better actually. Like there's a little bit more response from steering. But more than that, I like the response from this Camry. Like this feels nice, you know? It's not a BMW, but it feels nice. Like it steers pretty nicely. It's not very direct. It is still more for like cruising and, you know, for like a city kind of driving. But it still feels way better. Like it's not a loose, it's not wobbly, and the car behaves fairly well, which part of that is the chassis tuning. And that's what I'm gonna go and discuss on the bumpy road. And now I'm driving Toyota Camry Hybrid SE on my favorite Tampa Avenue on my bumpy roads, hitting all these imperfections on the road. And how does it feel, right? Well, I'm honestly quite surprised that Camry SE can drive like this. It's on the sporty side, believe it or not. So it is comfortable, but it's not like loose, soft. It is comfortable yet slightly firm. Part of that is a sport tuned suspension, believe it or not, but yes, SE trim or XSE does have a sportier suspension setup. The other part is the lower profile tires. This rubber also feels a little bit harsher. Now the impact doesn't necessarily feel harsh, but there is some vibration that transferred into the cabin to the driver, and the end result is that you have a pretty nice balanced kind of ride. So if you want like a soft old type Toyota Camry, then you definitely may want to look into the LE trim because they have a thicker 60 tires, and they also have you know, non-sport tuned suspension. In fact, I'm also curious how that Camry drives compared to this. But personally, I like kind of a sportier ride. I have a BMW X3 M40i, so this would cater more to me because I like the comfort level it has, which is fairly comfortable, but at the same time, it has a nice gliding motion over the bumps. So it's not a rattling like the old Camrys wouldn't feel as premium. I would even use the word premium here when it glides over the bumps. So it's a pretty nice composed kind of ride, I would say, in this Camry, believe it or not. Now if the interior would be more upscale, then I would even say this feels like really premium. But since, you know, we're sitting with like you know, standard like regular Toyota interior, doesn't feel sitting in a nice premium cabin, but yes, the ride feels nice. Now in the past, people would go to Volkswagen Passat, you know, to feel something like this. Like to me, this new Camry feels like I'm driving more of a European type of a car. So basically, I'm honestly enjoying driving this vehicle. Yes, it's not like a fun BMW 3 Series, right? Because we don't have here conventional, you know, 6-speed or 8-speed transmission with torque converter. We have a CVT, and I'm not a fan of CVT. At this, you know, we don't have a crazy turbo engine. We have, you know, a regular 4-cylinder paired to electric motors with CVT transmission. But still, with all this, Toyota built a really nice, solid machine. What I'm also impressed here is how the hybrid system works. It's almost seamless, like it's almost not noticeable when it switches to EV mode or it's in hybrid mode. I mean, it's a fantastic job compared to 2011 Camry that I had. This is like day and night, and it's more balanced. Like the weight in this car is about 3,500 pounds compared to 3,700 pounds. So imagine they packed like a better dense, you know, more modern battery in this that is delivering 47 or 51 mpg for the LE trim compared to the first Camry hybrid, which was 34, 35. So, and it's a lighter car as well, and a more balanced steering. So the end result is that you're buying these pretty nicely balanced Camry overall for 2025, where you don't crave for V6. I mean, you don't need V6 Camry, believe me. And you don't want that gasoline powered Camry as well, because this hybrid just has it all. It has a decent, you know, performance for the family sedan. with fairly decent acceleration, fairly nice cabin, not as spacious as, let's say, Accord. At least it doesn't feel as spacious. And very seamless hybrid system, fairly good steering. The steering, I like it, you know, the car responds to steering pretty nicely. I'll discuss more about it on Twisty Roads. So the end result is that anyone buying this car, if you ever drove Camrys in the past, then you will see the difference. You will see the difference and you'll appreciate what they've done in this 2025 car. So now let's hop in on the highway. And I'm about to hit the highway, just hitting more of these bumpy roads and kind of appreciating this Camry. Like I said, this is not your typical old Camry where it was just flowing, you know, like a couch type. No, that's not the case. The SE and XSE trims really have the sport tune suspension to make it a little bit more fun, to make it firmer, paired with this wheels and this lower profile tires. All right, let's throw it actually in sport mode and hit this on-ramp. And you know what? It's fairly decent. And Camry merging the highway. All right. You know, it's not like sluggish. It's not struggling. It is moving. It is definitely moving. Not bad. So let's first check our sound insulation in this car. Let's pick up some speed. It's about 63, 64, so it's not bad overall. So the cabin, I mean, it's not the best sound insulated cabin, yet it's fairly quiet. I mean, there is some noise that's coming from the tires, and that is because we have these 45 tires that not necessarily the quietest tire. I think you can get some Michelin's the same size, which will be more quiet than these Bridgestone Turanza tires if you want it to be a more quieter car. But they certainly do well in terms of performance, and I'm going to discuss them on the Twisty Roads. So overall, it's a nice cabin to be in. Seats, all right, let's talk about seats for long rides, right? I wouldn't call them like super comfortable. I wouldn't call them like really like the best seats out there. I kind of honestly expected them to be a little bit better for Camry, but they're not a deal breaker. You can certainly spend many hours in this car just floating using your adaptive cruise control just fine. No problem. Yeah, they're not firm, not soft, kind of in the middle. Now let's next talk about the mid-range power in this car, right? This being hybrid, 225 horsepower. So let me throw it in the sport mode and we'll see. All right, floor it, and it generates power, and it moves, guys. It moves. You know, it's not, of course, super fast, but if let's say you need to overtake a few cars with mid-range power, let me change lane, floor it. Yeah, it moves. One thing about CVT transmission is that it finds that lower kind of gear quicker. Like it moves to lower RPM quicker to build that power than, let's say, you know, your regular conventional transmission. Of course, not like a ZF and BMW, because those are very quick. But let's say in your regular RAV4 that it still uses 6-speed, right? The RAV4 non-hybrid. This is fairly quick. Yeah, it builds power pretty quickly. All right, so overall driving this car on the highway is very pleasant. Now let me go hit some twisty roads so we can discuss the balance and the safety of this vehicle. And time has come to drive Camry Hybrid SE on the twisty roads. I am in the sport mode. Let's go. All right, so for those who are new to my channel, the reason I bring my cars to the twisty roads, even if it's a Toyota Camry, right, or not a sports car like a BMW or Porsche, is because this is the place where you put everything more to the stress. You get to test acceleration, some braking, and most importantly, chassis. And chassis kind of tells us everything, like what is this car kind of made of, to help us decide if this is a balanced, safe car or not. When we take these corners, we get to see what chassis does, you know, how does it behave, and you know, based on that we can tell if it's a safe car or not. So I started taking some corners, and guess what? Camry Hybrid SE quite surprised me, as it does fairly well. Like I said, steering does tighten up in the sport mode, and it feels a little bit more direct. There is some response from it, which is not bad. Yes, this is not a BMW 3 Series, right? One way to know is if you weave it like left, right, you'll see that the recovery is pretty good actually for this car. It feels pretty safe, but it's not as fluent and fast as, let's say, you know, some of the, you know, premium automakers like BMW. But I'm not comparing it to BMW. I'm just trying to show you that this Camry is balanced pretty well. Now take this corner a little bit faster. We are on the 235 wide tires, and they're fairly grippy tires. Of course, if I take it to faster speeds, it will start slipping. And what's good about all this is that even if this car slips, it does it in a nice controlled environment, right? The car will just slide, it'll understeer, but you will know what's happening. Like there's no kind of wobbly motion in this chassis. Yeah, it behaves fairly well. In the past, Camrys used to, like, you know, lean on one side and they would feel overwhelmed. Tires would feel overwhelmed. Like, I remember all that, and not the case here. Like in my 11 Camry Hybrid, I even put Pirellis there to see how different it would make. It was grippier, but still it was overwhelmed in the corners. Now this SE is not overwhelmed. It's amazing, man. Now when I do quick left to right, there is a shift in left to right, like in the chassis, but there is no, you know, losing, or there's no, like a losing, not a control, like losing balance kind of, right? It does it fairly quick. And that's Camry, guys. This is not, you know, this is not like an 86 Toyota or something. So I can even say you can have a little bit of fun on the back roads in this car. Also, I'm going downhill, so I don't need to put too much power down. And this is enough. Brakes feels all right. They're not like really strong, but they work okay here. And what I'm mostly impressed is the chassis. For Camry, I think they've done a fantastic job. Where there's no excessive motions, it does just everything right, man. The one impression I got overall from this car is that whatever they did in this car is kind of done right. Maybe except the interior. I'm not impressed with the interior, but driving dynamics is good. Driving dynamics in this car is really good. It feels on par with like a Passat, Volkswagen Passat. It feels on par with like a European kind of, feels almost like Audi A4 to me, honestly. Of course, those Audi A4 will be grippier. It'll be able to handle much higher speed. But overall impression is very pleasant. All right, now let's go ahead and summarize this. And guys, I decided to record my conclusion while still driving here on the twisty roads to enjoy this Camry ride. I never thought I would say that I'll enjoy driving Camry, and I truly do. You know, it's a fun family car. It's of course not as exciting because certain components are missing, right, in terms of transmission and power, but the way it is built, I think it's good for what it is. So to answer one of my two questions, what is the modern Toyota Camry feels like driving? I think Toyota has done a tremendous job for balance. Chassis is very well balanced, meaning it is safe. For overall this hybrid package, I think it's shifted very smoothly between hybrid and gas and AV modes. It does a fantastic job. It's very seamless. You don't even notice when what happens. And it has a fairly decent acceleration. I mean, 7 seconds is really not bad at all. So I highly recommend SE trim. Now, if this video gets popular, like I'll get at least 10,000 views, I can bring LE trim if you guys want to compare, or even the Honda Accord Hybrid if you guys want to look at the biggest rival for the Camry, right? And to answer my second question, right, why would you buy a sedan over a crossover, and would I personally get a sedan over a crossover? To answer that is that one biggest reason people would still buy Camry today over, let's say, RAV4 is the preference. You want sedan or something lower to the ground because you like to operate a vehicle that is lower to the ground, because it's a different feeling. Every sedan feels different than the crossover, right? And my wife is one of those examples that she loves sedans, and I have an X3 M40i, and she has her own Volkswagen CC, and she just loves that car. And you know, she's looking at sedans and coupes and convertibles rather than the crossovers. It's a preference. The second reason is efficiency. If you buy in a car as a workhorse, and I'm, by the way, looking for a workhorse type of a vehicle, then efficiency will be also one of your priorities. And this Camry Hybrid gets 47 mpgs, or LE gets 51 mpgs, right, for the 2025 front wheel drive, which is almost like, which is basically 10 mpg better than the RAV4 hybrid, right? So you get a more efficient vehicle by getting a sedan like this one over the RAV4. But finally, would I personally buy a sedan? And the answer is no. I would buy a performance sedan or coupe, but not a regular workhorse type of vehicle. Now, I personally shifted from sedans and convertible to the crossover for the utility, and I think over the years, crossovers finally closed this gap in driving dynamics, right? Where even RAV4, CR-V hybrid, they drive fairly well compared to the past, meaning they drive as good as sedans, and that's why you can buy crossover today and still enjoy driving them. That's my personal opinion. And my X3 M40i BMW drives literally like sedan, and I love the utility that it has, because I brought a fridge the other day and it fit there, you know, just fine. Something you cannot do with the hybrid Camry, or basically sedan. So here are my thoughts on this. Let me know what you think. Are you shopping for the Camry? Do you have a RAV4? What are your thoughts? Leave me in the comments. And if you want to watch a video on the RAV4 hybrid, I'll link it here. CR-V hybrid, I'll link it here. And let me know if you want me to review any of other vehicles. And by the way, guys, if you're looking for a reliable, tiny dash cam, then check out the link in the description as well. And I'll catch you in my next video.